Hello, folks, and welcome to Let's Talk Sport on YouTube. And we're live here talking about next week's US Open tennis, the final Grand Slam of the year. Yes, we're 24 minutes late, but yet again, so was Sinner with his test results the other day. But anyway, I'm Jamie Davies, and alongside me is Cara Davis, my, you could say, sister from another mother, if you look at the surname. And Joe Crosland, who is a man from a county area that's just nowhere near as good as Cheshire. They call it Shropshire over the border. But anyway, great to have you both on. How are you?
Yeah,
Very well, thank you.
doing good, thank you.
I tell you what, we picked the right time to do this, didn't we? Because in the last hour or two, the draw has been made for when the US Open starts on Monday. So straight away, before we go into that, I thought I'd ask you both, what is your favourite US Open memory over the years? And I'll start that off with Cara.
I mean, it would be obvious to say I'm a Raducanu, but I'm going to say Kim Clijsters 2010.
Oh, really?
That final, yeah. Kim Clijsters was my hero when I was younger, so that was probably one of my favourites.
I was going to say, I remember we actually did the what do you call it, the Raducanu final live on YouTube, didn't we? And I must admit, I thought that would top it, but shame I don't have the clip of when we realised she won it, because we both couldn't believe it.
No,
I can't believe that was 3 years ago. Anyway, let's go to Joe Crosland. What was your favourite US Open memory?
Well, it is the obvious one, but I am going to say Raducanu because it's something that I don't think we'll see again in our lifetimes. That really, it's just incredible. I remember actually watching that at a pub, which I think is the only time I've ever watched tennis in a pub, and it was brilliant.
I mean,
very good memory.
It's funny when you mentioned tennis at a pub. Like I remember, I remember watching the 2014 US Open final at my local pub, and I could see why everyone at my pub were a bit like, "Why is this on?" And then
put the football on.
Yeah, put the football on, and I'm like, "There's no football on a Monday." This was when the US Open final used to be a Monday night fixture instead. Do you remember that? It was weird, just like the Cincinnati Masters last week, But I just remember watching it, and it was when Cilic was playing Nishikori, and obviously none of them had ever won a Grand Slam till that day, and then Cilic got his first Grand Slam out of it. Straight sets match, really boring, sadly. So I was a bit amazed the pub let me watch the whole thing, but I think for favourite memory, it's got to be one Martin Del Potro winning it in 2009, which was quite a shock, but I probably am going to have to say Andy Murray winning it. Just because I remember it started at 9 p.m. at night, and he was 2 sets up against Djokovic. You're thinking he's finally going to do it after 4 years after the big thrashing by Federer in the US Open final of 2008, and then just then Djokovic comes back to make it 2 sets on. You think he's never going to win one, is he? And then all of a sudden it's 2 a.m. Tuesday morning on a school night, and there we are still watching him, and then he beats him finally. So, yeah, that was one of the longest Grand Slam finals of all time, but it was great to see Murray come out on top just weeks after he won the Olympics as well. So, that was a good time for Andy Murray. And actually, before we go into this as well, folks, this will be our first Grand Slam without Andy Murray, as in him officially not a player anymore. How does that make you lot feel?
It's sad, isn't it? Like after his doubles in the Olympics with Dan Evans come to an end and he left the court, I kind of shed a tear. I wasn't expecting to get as upset as I did to go into a new era of tennis, and Andy Murray's not going to be a topic of conversation.
It's weird. I mean, for you, Joe, as well. I mean, I was saying to Cara, I think, not long ago, where I always will miss the whole checking when he's next going to play, when you look at like the draw and you just think, oh, that's not happening anymore.
He's such a fighter, hasn't he? He's always seemed to be battling against the odds and somehow coming out on top. It's just incredible to watch and inspiring in a lot of ways. So yeah, certainly will miss him.
Absolutely. Right, anyway, let's get straight into it. So I'd like to thank Cara for being the producer of this one. She's done a bit of a running order for us as to what to talk about. She's planned it more than I do. I never plan, but hence why we're late. But we will try and follow as much of it from our list as we can. And I'm thinking straight away, shall we talk about the big story of the week, which is Mr. Yannick Sinner, which, well, for a lot of people, there might be a bit of a confusion because you could say by reading the articles, it's already going to make him get a bad reputation out of it. But I think what's really clear here, folks, is to really put out the message into what has really happened. Cara, I'm going to ask you, what's happened to Sinner, one of our best players in men's tennis right now, has got a bit of a, you could say, a fading light on top of him.
So basically, Yannick Sinner tested positive for a banned substance twice in March this year, not long after his first Grand Slam victory at the Australian Open, sorry. And the main thing I think the internet is taking from it is the fact that it's been kept under wraps until now, and he wasn't given a provisional ban, and it was kind of overturned quite quickly. Whereas you've got a player like Simona Halep who's been fighting to try and get back on the court and prove her innocence. So it's a case of people are calling out double standards.
I was going to say, I mean, Joe, how do you feel about all that, where they've kept it quiet, where I feel like a lot of female players in the past, whenever they've been in trouble, it's out there straight away. But it feels like the bigger the name, the more likely you might actually get away from it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's certainly the perception, and that's something that some players have actually been quite vocal. And I think Denis Shapovalov tweeted something about it being double standards, and I do understand why they feel like that, because like Cara and yourself said, that players have lost months of their lives, even in cases where they've ultimately found to be at no fault. I think Tara Moore, the British player, lost about 19 months of her career and was eventually found no fault in a sort of similar way. And I can certainly see why there's a perception that it's unfair or favourable treatment or what have you.
I mean, I guess from this, really, though, I guess what's important is for people to understand, though, Cara, that it's more down to the spray that they used on Sinner, which is obviously down to the physio's responsibility and not the player himself.
Yeah, so apparently it's been alleged that the physio had the banned substance on their hands, give Yannick Sinner a massage. The substance got into an open wound, and that's how there was minor traces found in the 2 samples that he provided.
I mean, what we do know though as well is that he will play in the US Open. So are we expecting any ban that could happen for Sinner, or is this pretty much now under the carpet?
I can't see there being anything further unless he tests positive again, which you have to hope seems unlikely at this point.
I mean, let's see what happens. But it just shows, doesn't it, folks, that in tennis or any individual sport at least, you got to be careful what you're using, no matter what. It's quite scary. I mean, you have it a few years ago, don't you, where Maria Sharapova had to do, I think it was a 2-year ban, where it was all down to not being up to date with the rules from the emails that she was getting, from what I can remember rightly. But it just shows that even if you're not attentive to things like that, it could come back and bite you. So, hopefully, I'm kind of hoping that this doesn't darken Sinner over the next few weeks. Unless he's been trying to hide this. I don't know. But I do think that I wouldn't be surprised if we did hear some boos at the Al-Farash Stadium when he comes out. You just never know. But anyway, we'll try and put some dark news out the way for some light news, which is, well, the draw's done. The men and the women's draw is announced. And if I can get this right, it's not the best layout, folks, but we do have the men and women's draw here. And straight away, I'm looking at the British perspective in the men's, where Jack Draper will start against Zhang of China in the first round. While you look at others, where it looks as though Dan Evans will, I always pronounce this name wrong, Dan Evans will take on Kakanov. Was that all right? Was that bad?
Close enough, I think.
Close enough. Oh, I'll take that. I'll take that. So that,
I know you meant.
So from that British perspective, that's what we got there. Then we got Sinner up against an American of McDonald. My favourite, Stan Wawrinka, will start against O'Connell from Australia. So that's on section 1 of the draw. Tsitsipas against Kokkinakis, who, I don't know. Tsitsipas is one of them for me, he's up there, but he just doesn't seem to have the killer edge to win a Grand Slam. But here we are. Carlos Alcaraz is waiting on a qualifier to come through. But anyway, those are some of the highlights. What has caught your eye, Cara, from this draw?
Well, from the men's, I've noted down here. I've got Shelton versus Team in the first round. That's gonna be a good one.
And that's the thing, because Team's going to retire, isn't he, after the US Open?
Yeah, it makes sense with considering the injury and the comeback trail he's been on. He's not had great success since he's been back on the court, which is a shame, because great player at his peak, but sometimes sport has other ideas.
Yeah. I was going to say, because it was only a few weeks ago he announced it. And it's mad to think where his career has gone in the last few years, because it wasn't long ago. Well, it doesn't feel long ago when he won the US Open. And ever since his career, I hate to say it in this way, but his career has fallen down. Not because of his own fault, but injuries are injuries. It's just a horrible part of a sports athlete to stay at the top of your game while trying to stay fit as well. But hopefully it'd be great if we could see Team do a good run into the tournament, see if he can finish off nicely. But best wishes to him. But Joe, any of those that you've seen that interests you from the draw straight away? Because we always do look at the opening round as a bit of a, you normally see the best come through quite comfortably, but is there any there that might shock a few?
I think Kokkinakis and Tsitsipas, as you mentioned, is a really interesting matchup. I can see Kokkinakis coming out of that one, to be honest. It's difficult to know which Tsitsipas will turn up sometimes. I think he's split with his father recently as a coach, isn't he? So that's an interesting subplot.
Again,
yeah.
I feel like he doesn't like his dad.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean? He always wants him out of the arena by the time they play.
Something that I noted, not necessarily in any round, but there's a potential for Draper against Alcaraz in round 3, which if they both get there, it could be fun.
Well, we know Alcaraz will. It's whether or not Draper does. But yes, of course, Alcaraz waiting for a qualifier to come through, who a lot of people are wondering, aren't they? That Olympic final he lost recently to Novak Djokovic he took it quite badly, didn't he? He lost in straight sets, but Joe, we were talking about it, weren't we? Where during the match we were both saying this is an absolute cracker. There was just nothing separating them, but yet when you look at the score, it was only a 2-set match. So even though Alcaraz lost, I think he's taking it really badly, and maybe it might upset his mentality for the rest of the year.
He's taken back-to-back losses to 37-year-olds now, because he lost to Gael Monfils at Cincinnati as well, didn't he?
Yeah.
And the angriest I've ever seen him on court as well.
He smashed a racket, didn't he?
Yeah.
I think the Olympic final has really, really got to him, because to see that from Carlos Alcaraz, we're not used to seeing it.
Yeah.
I was going to say as well, because he got interviewed on the court not long after the final had finished, and he was crying there, and he said, I did everything. He literally said, I put everything into this game and I couldn't do it. But I get he's beaten Djokovic in the last 2 Wimbledon finals, so that to me is a sign of someone taking over the throne. But is it possible the guy might have been a bit overconfident and thinking, because I've beaten Djokovic twice at a Grand Slam final, this Olympic final should be a cakewalk? But is this when he should realise that? I mean, there's no shame to losing to Djokovic, is there?
No shame, but I think it just shows the importance of the Olympics and how he feels about playing for his country, and he wanted to bring that gold medal home. I think that's what it was for me. I think it's the pressure and the privilege of playing for your country that got to him.
Absolutely.
First Olympic final as well. So
yeah, and
managing those emotions.
And I think, Carl, what was magic about that final was just, I thought there was a lot of points where Alcaraz should have won them, and Djokovic just kept going. And even that forehand, one of the forehand winners he had, which went right across court, right past Alcaraz on his right through that corner, just made you realise with Djokovic, his passion was just there to do it, wasn't it? It was just, you could tell he wants to complete tennis by winning that gold medal.
Yeah, and it's took him until now, until he's 37, to get his first gold medal a first medal of any colour. So if Carlos Alcaraz has a career half as great as Djokovic's, then he's got nothing to worry about. There's going to be plenty more opportunities where Alcaraz can get that gold medal.
And I don't know about you lot, folks, but just seeing Djokovic shake as well at the end, it just feels like his life work's done in that moment. It was just incredible, and I had to put my hands up to him, because it's like, you've done something that not many players have done, which is win everything by winning that gold medal.
Yeah, it was an incredible moment.
Absolutely. But anyway, let's see if Alcaraz can maybe get revenge on Djokovic. I mean, that's currently the draw. If you want to see it in full, Wikipedia's got a good page on the draw, or maybe the US Open website for any of you lot at home. But to go into the men's side of the draw in terms of who we think's possibly going to win, I mean, Cara, it feels as though as long as Djokovic is around, he could always be seen as the favourite. But I feel like in the ATP world now, it's not that simple. But it feels like we always have 2 to 3 players that can go for this, like Djokovic, Alcaraz, Sinner, and I'm going to put this up there now. Tiafoe, the American player who I think got to the semis last year, he's playing really well. He got to the final of Cincinnati the other day. It's all there for maybe an American to go on to win it as well.
Yeah, I think it's an exciting time for men's tennis. It's starting to kind of cross paths with WTA, where it's an open field. I think there's now, instead of just Djokovic, there's now Djokovic, Alcaraz, Sinner, and then a few of the outsiders as well. Musetti's had a great year. Got to the final of Queens, had a good run at the Olympics. So who knows? Maybe this could be the year that an outsider wins the men's tennis final.
Oh wow! You've heard it here first from Jamie Davies. Joe, is there anyone that you're thinking of winning this whole thing, or is it too close to call?
I mean, I before the news broke, I was very confident in predicting Sinner. After sort of in that couple of hours after winning Cincinnati and the doping story breaking, I was thinking, yeah, Sinner looks good here. He looks in good form. I'm going to predict him. My faith has wavered slightly because, as we mentioned, we don't know sort of what sort of reaction he's going to get from the crowd, the press room, how he'll deal with it.
Yeah.
I do agree. If an outsider's going to win it, this feels like the time. I mean, Alcaraz, as we mentioned, lost to Monfils, seems to have been affected in some way by the Olympic final. Djokovic, actually, before the Olympic final, was having not an amazing season, and in some ways it's difficult to predict his level. He showed everyone what he could do at the Olympics, but also he's, like I say, had a bit of a weird season up to that point. And Sinner, we don't really know how this doping news is going to affect him. So if an outsider is going to win, this does feel like as good a chance as any.
Yeah. I do feel as though with Djokovic, as good as he has been, it feels like he is starting to go into that late period of his career where Federer has been. Nadal is definitely in right now, which is you have to pick and choose. You can't just go and play tennis at a top level week in, week out. And it's even hard to say that about Djokovic, who his mentality and the endurance he shows on that court makes you think this guy's never going to sleep. But he's even shown that, Joe and Cara, where he's had his knee surgery. Wimbledon, he gets to the final, but come the final, he just wasn't there, was he? He just wasn't like he normally is when he plays on grass court. But then to then get ready for the Olympics, it's like what you just said, Joe. You just don't know what to expect. It's like, hang on, the other week you didn't look like you were up for winning a set. Now you go and win the Olympics.
Yeah, it really did look like he was winding down at one point, and then the Olympics have sort of changed everything.
Absolutely. Well, he must really like stuff to do with orange, like clay court. So he must really like Cara as well. Sorry.
Sadly, we've not crossed paths yet. So.
Well, it must happen soon. Okay, so I'm going to say Djokovic to win it. I know that's an obvious one, but I feel like Novak wants. I'll be honest. I think we've got another year or two of Djokovic, and I think that'll be it. I know he kind of hinted that he would love to do the next Olympics, but the only time will tell. Can his body do it for another 4 years? Who knows? I've doubted him before, and he comes out and wins again, so you never know. But I'm going with Djokovic for the men's side of the tournament. Let's go now to the women's, and if I just get up the shared screen again of the draw. Now, the women's is so unpredictable. It always is. You never know. There's always a first-time Grand Slam winner in there somewhere. Last year, Coco Gauff won it. And what I found quite incredible about Coco Gauff winning it was we all knew she was going to be a special talent. We saw it when she came out onto Wimbledon at the age of 16, 17 or whatever it was. But I think what's really important for her to win that home Grand Slam at her age already, I feel like that's taken a lot of pressure off her shoulders, because I feel like that's the one she needed to win. And now she's done it. Cara, how do you feel about Coco Gauff going into this one? Because we saw at the Olympics, a match didn't go her way and she absolutely lost it with the chair umpire. And then they had to bring in an official over to advise on the rules of when to use Hawkeye and stuff like that when she got angry. But I guess this also should be something where, take a step back, learn from it. She is still young, but my word, what a player she's become.
Oh my God, such a talent. Like, since we first seen her at Wimbledon all those years ago, coming through qualifying and then beating Venus Williams in the main draw, it's mad what she's achieved, and to have got a Grand Slam as well, again, so young. But she has had a very up and down season. Not great at the Olympics. I think that occasion got to her, and especially with some of the calls. No Hawkeye on clay, no video replays. She was one of the favourites at Wimbledon when some of the seeds fell early. She was the favourite in her side of the draw. She couldn't take advantage. And there was a bit of upset again at the French Open, I think, with line calls and decisions like we've seen at the Olympics. So I don't think she is going to be able to defend. And while Aryna Sabalenka is in her section of the draw, having just won a title, beating Iga Swiatek en route, it's hard not to back Sabalenka at this point for me.
What are your thoughts, Joe?
Yeah, I'm with Cara. I would back Sabalenka, to be honest. I feel like Sabalenka or Swiatek are the two for me who I would expect to do it. I agree with everything Cara said about Coco as well. I think it's worth remembering in the last US Open, she came into it with a lot of momentum. I think she won Cincinnati, didn't she? Or did she? Yeah, and had a good run to Toronto. Whereas this time she's lost in the first round in Cincinnati, and she lost early in Toronto as well. So yeah, I think it's a completely different scenario coming into this US Open for her. Sabalenka, like you say, Cara, she won Cincinnati. She looked really good. Her performances in Grand Slams have been good as well. Maybe she hasn't won as many as she would have liked to, but she's always in those sort of latter stages. So
yeah, you can always guarantee that she is gonna be there in the quarterfinal or semi-final.
Yeah.
So you might as well just put money on her now to be in the latter stages of the tournament.
Yeah, definitely.
I always find though in women's tennis though, because you always, whenever it comes to the last few rounds, if some of the seeds go out quite early on, it really does feel like, throw a dart and you can't go wrong. It just feels like any of those that you pick from that dart that you've just thrown, you might just win it. And I think that's why I love the women's tour, because it's just so out there, always open, and you just never know what to expect. I mean, Emma Raducanu won it as a qualifier, let's not forget, 3 years ago. So, I mean, that says it all. But if you actually look at some of the draws, I mean, I love seeing Madison Keys still up there, in the top 32 still. You've also got Naomi Osaka that's coming in as a wild card.
So great first round against Ostapenko.
That's going to be brilliant.
Really good. Yeah.
If the Ostapenko we know and love shows up, that's going to be brilliant.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, US Open was where it all started for Osaka, when she famously beat Serena Williams, when Serena, it's fair to say, just didn't like the person sitting on that chair that night. and also you'd think we're back in 2016 because Caroline Wozniacki's still there. She's waiting to play a qualifier, so good to see her. Good to see her back in the women's game. But yes, quite a few big names to look out for in that opening round. What do you think of Swiatek's chances, though? Because I watched her play the Washington Open the other day, and I must admit, her tennis is so good to watch. When her forehand is there, I think she's the best in the business. But it just feels like some of the big tournaments she's involved in, she doesn't seem to go on to win it. So despite her ranking saying what she is, it's still a bit hit and miss for her, isn't it?
I think it depends on the tournament because she put so much time and effort into preparing for the French Open this year. That was her goal. She wanted to win that again.
Yeah.
And then go on to the Olympics and do the same thing. She has obviously had success on hard court. She won the US Open a couple of years ago. But I don't think she would be the outright favourite to win. Yeah. It would be nice to see her win, to get another one to shut the critics up, because according to them, she's had a really bad year. But if winning a Grand Slam results to a bad year, then wow. What does she have to do to have a great year?
Yeah, absolutely. But of course, going into, and let's not forget, after the US Open, the season nearly comes to an end for the race for number one. So at this moment in time, she's in a good spot regardless. Can she just keep that ranking points up if she's not going to at least win this tournament? That's the next big thing as well between her and Sabalenka. But looking at our British perspective, Katie Boulter is going to be 31st in the seedings. She's waiting for a qualifier to come through to determine who she will face in her first round. But she's in the same side as Emma Raducanu in the draw. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
It looks as though they're going to play each other if them two.
No, I think the problem in that part of that little section is Pegula.
Oh yeah.
She's had a great couple of weeks. Hasn't she, picking up a title a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah. I think she'd be Raducanu's round 2 if Raducanu beats Kenin, and then Boulter's round 3 if they both get that far.
Absolutely. But I just love it how on the second round draw of section 2 on Wikipedia, they've already put American flags on there because it's just because an American's going through. Even Wikipedia knows it. I absolutely love it. Cool. So that is, I'm going to say this now, not because I love her or anything, but Sakkari to win the tournament. She's 9th in the world, I know, but as I say in women's tennis, it's very unpredictable. You just never know who's going to win it on the week of it all. So, just a reminder: are you both going for Sabalenka?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say Sabalenka.
Yeah.
I think you're on your own there with Sakkari, Jamie.
I'm always on my own.
Not because cursed in Grand Slams.
Absolutely, not because my uncle is Greek and I've got to support her or anything. But it's definitely Sakkari over Tsitsipas anyway, because he just doesn't get on with his dad. Oh well. But anyway, I think we're gonna pretty much wrap it up there, unless there's any last words from you guys. What we'll try, we can't promise anything to our viewers, but once the tournament gets going, we may try and do some watch-alongs on certain matches throughout the tournament. So keep an eye out for that. If not throughout the tournament, we'll definitely make sure we do the finals. Hopefully one of you or both of you are free for that. Any final thoughts from you guys?
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, the round 1 matches, there's some great round 1 matches. So the first day of a Grand Slam is always the best because there's so many stories, so many matches. It's chaos.
Have you been to the US Open yet, Cara?
No, I haven't. I've only been to Wimbledon. I'm going to Roland Garros in September for the Paralympics.
Oh, brilliant.
So that'll be my first time there on the clay, but I've not yet been to the US Open or Australia.
I take it, is it wheelchair tennis they're doing at the Paralympics?
Yeah, so I've got finals tickets. So Alfie Hewitt and Gordon Reid, I know that you're probably not watching this, but if you could do us a favour and get to the final, that would be great.
What do you mean probably not watching this? They've literally been waiting all day to watch this. I mean,
they've been refreshing since 7 o'clock.
Absolutely.
Oh, they would have given up when Jamie was half an hour late.
Yeah, when they found out on the description Jamie was the host, they just knew not to bother.
Exit.
But for any of you watching right now and you've only just joined us, you can rewatch this back the moment the stream ends. So, just saying, it's all about on demand these days. We are the BBC iPlayer, but for YouTube. Not that YouTube has that for everyone else, but just saying. Anyway, I think before we go as well, it was in my head. It's completely gone out again. I can't remember. Actually, no, you mentioned the US Open, Cara. I'd fully recommend any fan of tennis, if you get the chance, do go to New York and see it, because just like you said, Cara, about the first day when everyone's playing, it's some place. And also Arthur Ashe is some stadium. But what I quite like about the US Open is that it's very modern. I love Wimbledon. Cara loves it more than me. I'm sure she does. But the only thing I don't like about Wimbledon is the whole wear white. It's like, no, that's old fashioned. And also like just the fact that the ball boys and ball girls are so tense, but the ones in America just throw it over, like they chuck it in the air, and I love it. It's like, yes, just don't give a fuck. Just do your job. Don't give a fuck. Do what you want to do to get that ball across, whatever it takes. Oh, I just love it. So I'd fully recommend it if you ever get the chance. And yes, for any of you lot lucky enough who live in New York and you're thinking of going, do go, because there's going to be a lot of good tennis and good atmosphere. But what I find annoying, Cara and Joe, is that the US Open, like the Australian Open, they don't know when to finish for the night, do they? They just seem to go, we're staying here. Yeah, we're staying here till this match is over, and then it's 4 a.m. the next day. I think that's what I'm going to miss the most. Andy Murray always doing a late night shift, and it's 4 a.m. in America by the time he finishes, and then he cries into his towel because he's like, I can't play the next game. My hip's gone again.
I don't think the players will miss it. We certainly will. But
we
will.
Absolutely. Oh, brilliant. Anyway, I'll just quickly see if there's any comments from our live chat page. Ricky Wise getting in touch. Hello, Ricky. Hope you're well. We've got Stuart saying the legendary Joe. There you go, Crosland. You can pay him that $5 later for that message.
yeah. Thanks, Stu.
Greg says hello. Hello, Greg. Good to see you. Stuart asking, why isn't the big man Medvedev in the graphic? But yes, Medvedev, we didn't mention him, but again, you never know with him. One of the dark horses, as always, when it comes to the Grand Slam tennis. But yes, as I said, if you haven't yet, folks, do subscribe to Let's Talk Sport on YouTube. Give us a like, leave a comment, and keep an eye out for our live watch-alongs during the US Open tournament. And also for you women's football followers, we're going to try and get back ready for that for the new season. Joe will join me on that for the preview of the Women's Super League, maybe even the Women's Champions League as well. We'll keep an eye on the YouTube channel for that. So my thanks to Joe and Cara, and good luck to all our players, only the British ones. Don't care about the others, unless you're Sakari. But good luck to everyone at the tournament, and may your dreams come true. From all of us, it's goodbye.
Bye.